William Wordsworth was born on April 7, 1770, in Cockermouth, Cumberland. This area in the Lake District was extremely scenic and beautiful, and helped to cultivate Wordsworth's love of nature, which was later reflected in many of his poems. In his childhood, his father encouraged him to read extensively, allowing William to access his library whenever he wanted, and also encouraging him to memorize famous works of poetry by authors such as Shakespeare. This caused him to have great interest in literature from the very beginning of his life. After the death of his mother when he was 8 years old, his father sent him to Hogshead Grammar School, where he began to read more poetry and also write poetry of his own. In 1790, when he was 20 years old, he toured Europe, exploring places of beauty such as the Alps, which might also be one of the reasons why the beauty of nature features so prominently in many of his poems. During this time when he was touring Europe, he also went to France, where he was exposed to many of the ideals of the French Revolution, which many believe to also have affected his works of poetry. In 1798, he and Samuel Taylor Coleridge jointly published Lyrical Ballads, a collection of poetry which many think of as what marked the beginning of the Romantic movement, and so he is thought of as one of the greatest and most influential Romantic poets of all. The poem we will be analyzing, The World is Too Much With Us, was published in 1807, together with many of his other famous poems, such as Daffodils, in the collection Poems in 2 volumes. Many believe the publication of this collection was during the peak of Wordsworth's career, and marked a time when he produced many of what are considered his best works.
Okay, so let's move on to the synopsis of the poem. The speaker starts his poem by giving a pessimistic characteristic of mankind for both past and future. Humans are described as being carried away by the mentality of getting and spending, and are intoxicated by the seemingly brilliant materialistic progress in the modern society. He complains that the world is too overwhelming for us to appreciate, because we only concern about time and money, but ignore all the invaluable beauties of nature surrounding us. People are gradually losing their initial connection with nature, as they see nothing in nature is worthy enough. Even when the sea bears his bosom to the moon, and the wind howls, the humanity is still out of tune, and looks on uncaring at the spectacles of the storm. We should have the ability to appreciate beautiful events like moon shining over the ocean and the blowing of white wings. But it's like we are on a different wavelength from the nature. Unlike society, the speaker does not see nature as a comedy. He perceives himself as a visionary romantic, more in touch with nature than his contemporaries. Someone who is willing to stand by a lovely lily and let a touch of nature comfort his heart freely. He would rather be a strange pagan who worships an outdated religion, and that less sorrow will come to him when he gazes the ocean. At the end of the poem, he wishes that he could see the images of ancient gods rising from the waves, a sight that could cheer him greatly. In the end, his soul would stay with the charming nature until the end of the world.
The poem The World is Too Much With Us is an angry summation of the theme of communion with nature and how humans are becoming more distant from nature because of the world's development over the years, which leads to the negative downfall of man. The world's advancements has led to humans becoming preoccupied with material that they have started losing connection with nature. This is the total opposite of William Wordsworth's ideal world. The 19th century was an era of discovery and invention. There were marked improvements in areas such as mathematics and sciences. The world has developed and has given men much comfort and enjoyment. However, William Wordsworth wants to say that by being distant from nature, people are actually starving their souls. Men are focused on achieving and getting more, so much so that they have neglected the pristine glory of nature. William Wordsworth believes that nature keeps men alive emotionally, and therefore men should not just go about with worldly activities and ignore nature. If they were to do so, they would start portraying negative human characteristics. And if they were to grow closer to nature, this would be the opposite. How the theme is presented in the poem. The references to nature in the poem is abundant. For example, he refers to the sea, the winds, and describes the lyre, which are all part of nature. By the world, William Wordsworth means the human world of business and commerce. He infers that humans are running here and there, spending and earning money 24 hours a day. This results in humans losing touch with nature. Little we see in nature that is ours, meaning that as the days go by, the things we can relate to with nature becomes minimal. We have given our hearts away. Wordsworth presents the theme here by implying that by going for modernity, humans have given up their innermost desires to the world, which in other words, is nature. We are out of tune, it moves us not. Humans are getting more and more out of tune with nature, so much so that nature does not have any more effect on us humans. Humans have lost their connection with nature and are unable to feel anything from it. William Wordsworth would rather have been raised a pagan, as this would show the importance and power of nature, which he wants to feel badly. This theme on nature is symbolized in Proteus and Triton. Triton was a fish-tailed sea god, and he was usually depicted blowing a conch shell, which stilled the waves. He was a Greek god, the messenger of the sea. Proteus, who could change his form, is a shepherd of the sea's flocks in Greek mythology. Thus, Wordsworth sees deity in nature, and this is a clear explanation of the theme and how it is presented in the poem.
The world is too much with us. Too much refers to the poet not being able to take it anymore, as the world is too much for him to handle. Since we know that romantic poets focus and emphasize on the beauty of nature and nature itself, the world here refers to the industrialized societies that were believed to have destroyed nature, causing him to be unable to handle this situation. Late refers to the past and soon refers to the future. The poet is trying to show that this happens last time and it will still be the same later on. The next phrase, getting and spending and late and soon, uses a literary device of a repetitive rhyme scheme that gives a monotonous tone, just like how mankind are too preoccupied with material that they live like machines. This results in them destroying themselves, which is shown in the next line, we lay waste our powers. The readers will then question, what these powers the humans have? The hints to the answer are seen in the next few lines of the poem. In line 3, little we see in nature that is ours. This sentence tells us that there is a relationship between human and nature that used to exist. However, we lost our powers and hence feel no more connection to a natural world. We see no more beauty in nature and are not moved or influenced by nature anymore. William Wordsworth decided to use see in line 3 instead of any other verb is because he wants to send a message that human alienation from nature is an act of blindness. In line 4, we have given our hearts away. It chooses the word heart because it is most associated to feelings and sentiment, and literally it is the most important organ of the human body. Heart is a symbol of feelings, something that helps us to feel things around us, including nature. And now, mankind have given their hearts away, losing their ability to feel, which is most probably what the powers in line 2 refer to. There is also a use of metaphor and imagery as the act of giving our hearts away is compared to our alienation of nature. A solid boon is what Wordsworth describes the act of mankind giving away their hearts. Solid boon is a paradox, because a boon is a reward or gift, which we usually think of as good, but the poet calls it solid, which is bad. The poet probably wants to bring the reader's attention to this part, such that they will think and reflect on what they themselves have done. This is facilitated with the help of an exclamation mark to emphasize on the severity of the situation. In line 5, the sea that bears her bosom to the moon. The use of personification is seen here, as the sea is depicted as a human who bears her bosom. Moon is responsible for the waves on the surface of the sea, which is known as the bosom. Despite having the moon up in the sky and the sea on the ground, there is still some sort of connection between them, which tells that we are linked to nature and are part of them. Not only is there a clever use of personification in this line, but also alliteration in the phrase that bears a bosom, as both words start with the letter B. The reason why the poet used alliteration here is because he wants to tell the readers that one will enjoy being together with nature. In the next line, personification can be seen again as the winds have the ability to howl. Alliteration is present in the phrase, howling at all hours as well, again attracting the reader's attention. When the wind is asleep, it will be up gathered now like sleeping flowers. This is a simile. The wind is just like sleeping flowers when at rest. Since the flowers are asleep, the petals will be closed, and this implies that man is numb and unaware of the beauty and power of nature. Wordsworth knew that humans are dormant, and hence hoped that we will wake up and realize the power of nature.
For this, for everything, we are out of tune. The phrase "we are out of tune" is an imagery that evokes a sensuous experience of nature so that the readers can better relate to the poem. This sentence also gives the meaning that man is now out of harmony with nature, which again proves his point that humans are losing touch with nature. It moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be. The first part of this line, "it moves us not," is a very short sentence which gets his point across in a straightforward way. This changes the rhythm of the poem to get the reader's attention that people being more and more distant from nature does not have any emotional effect on us. The next part, "Great God," is another short sentence used to attract the reader's attention to the extremity of his wish. He uses alliteration to further emphasize on how distressed he is that he has to use blasphemy. You can also see that there is a stark difference in pronunciation. This again attracts the reader's attention to show how unhappy he is. The next line, "a pagan suckled in a creed outworn." He uses the word suckled to encompass the meaning of being born and nourished. He decided that suckled could emphasize the meaning of being nurtured. Similarly, the words "creed outworn" were chosen very carefully so that the readers will understand the intention with precision and accuracy that he would rather be attached to a worn-out system of beliefs than be out of tune with nature. In this case, the word "outworn" refers to the old Greco-Roman religion, which is seen as no longer adequate by Christians. The next line, "so might I, standing on this pleasant lea." The phrase "pleasant lea" uses the imagery to let readers have a visual image of what he's seeing so as to enhance the reader's experience, and thus they will have a lasting impression of the poem. Line 12, "having glimpses that will make me less forlorn," is another example of the poet using very precise diction and choosing his words carefully. The word "glimpses" show that what he sees is only for a short period of time and would not last very long. And similarly, the words "less forlorn" show the degree of his sadness, but these glimpses, no doubt only for a short period of time, lifts his forlorn mood. Moving on, "have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his rattred horn." In these two lines, he instills the technique of imagery to let his readers have a visual image of what he is talking about. And because people were familiar with the old gods in the past, they could relate to what he wrote better. By choosing to include two ancient gods in his poem, he shows that he is so wary of human separation from nature. He states that he would rather be raised a pagan so that he would again be able to see the power and wonder in nature as manifested in the gods that were once felt to be part of it. Therefore, nature would have the power, force, and significance it used to have when these gods were once worshipped, which he felt had been largely lost in his days. This shows once more that he would rather be in a state of disillusionment than be out of touch with nature. Looking back at line 11 to line 14, he uses irony by telling us that whilst he is overlooking the ocean, seeing Proteus and Triton, he is feeling less forlorn, but he is not trying to make the readers feel happy as well. In fact, the readers should be saddened by this scene because it shows that he has truly given up on humanity and chose to slip out of reality to again believe in ancient gods. Overall, in this poem, the poet chooses his punctuation very carefully, placing pauses at places where readers are given time to contemplate and engage with the message for reflection. With all the literary techniques used, he emphasizes that humans are too preoccupied with material wealth that we have abandoned the spiritual touch with nature and is thus saddened by the fact that we choose to neglect nature when it is there for us.